the earth-touching gesture. I've written recently about the mechanics of Dharma training. The fact that what we may like to think of as spiritual training, that it's somehow all metaphysical, never touches the ground, that's misplaced. This kind of thinking goes along with the mistaken view that if we can get enlightened, then we will get out of this God Almighty world to some better place. Good luck with that. If that's our view, then any image or statue of Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha of this age, should give us pause, because they show him touching the ground with his right hand in what is appropriately called the earth-touching gesture. It's there for everyone to see. Anyone can see that. In other words, aside from any spiritual intent we have, and we have, the rubber also has to somewhere meet the road, so to speak. Spirit must be made to matter, so to speak, through actual physical contact and practice. It takes a spiritually inclined person to master the Dharma, but part of that mastery, at least in Mahayana Buddhism, is not only knowing how to gain realization for ourselves, but also being able to demonstrate the effective techniques to others. So there's very definitely a mechanics of Dharma that needs to be grasped. Even the word metaphysical invokes the physical. Word physical's right in there. So the only thing beyond the physical that we might like to call spiritual is the ability to better embrace the physical. There is nothing beyond physically what is, except realization of the physical, realization of that fact, if you catch my drift. In other words, if we try to get out of town, so to speak, we just end up turning back around. Or here's maybe the best analogy I could give you. What is it that the astronaut sees when he gets to outer space that he can't see from here on Earth? Obviously, it's the fact that they can see the Earth. So that's our answer, folks. It might be helpful to understand the difference between an enlightened being like the Buddha and Dharma teachers who have some realization but are not fully enlightened. The Dharma teachers in this world are not all enlightened Buddhas, probably far from it. If they're not enlightened, then just what are they? Well, first, I'm sure this varies because there are dozens, if not hundreds, of types or views of Buddhism available. And in general, Dharma teachers, while not yet as fully enlightened as the Buddha, have achieved realization to one degree or another, which in itself is pretty rare. An authentic teacher has a realization and is thus permitted, usually by their teacher, to teach. In other words, an authentic teacher knows from realized experience what he or she instructs in the way of Dharma to others. And my original point is that an authentic teacher has realization enough that he or she not only understands the mechanics of Dharma, but also the process of guiding students to success in their particular Dharma practices. A teacher with some degree of authentic realization is what we should be looking for in the way of a Dharma guide, someone who can answer our questions and help us move along in our particular Dharma path. To us, as students, the Dharma can appear as quite a mystery, but for a teacher with some realization, they not only understand the Dharma conceptually, but have realized what in fact it's all about, how it works, and what's involved. Therefore, they can see how to guide us this way or that way as needed. So this is what I mean by the mechanics of Dharma, Dharma mechanics. In other words, We don't need the likes of a Dalai Lama as a personal guide, which would be hard to get because he's so busy. What we do need, as mentioned above, is someone with enough realization to guide us through the various preliminary practices and so on. And the guidance is just that, it's guidance. An authentic teacher has been there, done that, as they say, and he's able or she's able to point out the way to beginners like ourselves. Yes, of course there's a spiritual dimension, but it's not somewhere out there, somewhere else but here, but rather it's in here and right here. And a lot of it is no different than pointing out where the path is and letting us know when we kind of wander off from it. Just like we used to have training wheels on our bikes.